The show was just insane.
Attention, people of Earth, I have an important announcement to make.
Rise and shine, sleepyhead. It's a brand new day. Now prepare to experience the most outrageous man on radio.
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
You bet.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
ROCKFLUX.
Let's get this show on the road.
This is a nightmare. It must be a nightmare.
Thank you. Thank you, folks. Thank you for your adulation, your loyalty. I just finished watching that series, The Stand. I think that, was a movie, then it was another series. I don't know. It ends with a guy floating up with this tribe that's never been exposed to human beings before. You will worship me. Yeah, it was ridiculous. I'm still trying to figure out the proper spot for everything you know is wrong. Like, I don't know if it should be right there or something like that. I mean, this thing has gotten so crowded. Resist media and politics. It's like, what do I always say? I have ignored the media. I just don't like the word resist. I think I'm going to get rid of that. It's like, it's not my thing, So it's more like, I would be, just do something simple. Media and politicians are compromised. Are puppets. The media. Let's see if that fits in here. Yeah. The media and politicians are puppets. You could still see the game over of my hat. The screen's like really ridiculously filled, but everything is wrong. And I guess if game over was a little bit smaller, or just a little, if there was a little more breathing room. I mean, even if that went over her shoulder slightly, that might help to give there some, just some space. Space and time. Oh, by the way,
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
If you haven't figured that one out yet, this has been a long morning. I slept a little bit later. I woke up at 11. It was raining, of course, so it was the potential nightmare as usual. And the cat was active in his usual way, but not like disturbingly active. I was trying, if you look at the title card, we're the aliens, and I've got myself distorted into almost an alien face. We live in worlds we create in our own minds, part 2. We don't belong here. What are we doing in space anyway? And then we're already out in space, way, way out in space. But,
The future. He came from the future. And so do I.
But you said that he wasn't human, that he was some other kind of being.
Another world and another time.
Yeah, another world and another time. Let's see if we could do this without spilling coffee on my $5 off $35 at Ace Rewards card. Anyway, I had to go upstairs. I got a bucket and a and a fifth, a bucket and an eighth, a complete bucket full of water out there. So I made it through a rainy night. It's still rainy. It's going to rain. You know, sometimes it feels like it's raining all over the world. You know, that song. Today's Thursday.
The Weather Watch forecast.
And I don't have a map for you, but I do have, you know, the ability to tell you what the temperature is. It's 48 degrees outside here in the mid-Atlantic states, east of the Ohio Valley. Not about an hour away from one of the entrances to the Northern Appalachian Trail. But like I say, it's the mid-Atlantic states. So this weather forecast, you know how weather comes across the country. So basically, it's kind of raining. If you're in the mid-Atlantics, you probably have cloudy or rainy weather today. It looks like it's going to be up to the 60 degrees or so, and overnight 39. So, you know, it doesn't look like it's going to freeze over. But when we start talking about
Weekend weather.
Friday, thunderstorms, 46 for the high, then 36 for the low. That's definitely going to be frost. If you put your crops in on those nice days and they weren't winter crops, you're in trouble. Saturday, 60% chance of thunderstorms and rain. 41 degrees for the high, and there you go, 28 degrees for the low, which means it's below freezing Fahrenheit and Celsius. And Sunday, 50% chance of snow, 30 degrees for the high, below zero, below freezing on Sunday, and 19 for the low. And Monday's no better, same thing, 30 for the high, below 0 Celsius, below freezing Fahrenheit, and 18 for the low. 2 days in a row. But I mean, after today, it's going to feel nice. I mean, it's going to be a rainy, nice kind of day for some people. But it's the next week looks like it's going to be miserably cold.
Weekend weather.
Winter is returning tomorrow, not today. Today you will be thinking, oh, maybe that Greta girl was right, global warming. Well, two things. One, she was way off. Two, it's springtime. Sunday was the first day of spring, so we should be having warm weather. It's like I'm trying to tell you, the Earth's cooling. We're talking about going down into the teens. The normal lows, you don't go below in the 20s, you know, in March, and it's the end of March. March usually comes in like a lion and out like a lamb. It hasn't for the past several years, decade perhaps even, while they've been pushing this fantasy, right? To eliminate fossil fuels so we freeze to death. What happens if there's no fossil fuels, no oil, gas, coal, right? Because the windmills are already broken. People, you do know that, right? That was a failed T-Bones Pickens money-making experiment. Obama gave them for free, gave people $1 million tax breaks and $1 million in cash. That was as bad as when he sent over the $1 billion in cash to Iran. In cash and actually bills on pallets. But he basically gave companies like GE and stuff to build these things, and I guess who knows how much that T-Bone Pickens guy pocketed. And they put these things north and south, east and west, all over the place, some of them even ocean. They destroyed all these landscapes, killed millions of birds, and now millions of these things from Canada down through California and throughout the U.S. are basically rusting and rotting away. They're broken. And the only way to even repair the ones that aren't in the so-called windmill graveyards, which there are millions. It's hard to, that's a real statistic. You can research that. 1 million. Canada has like 1 million of them that are gone, are just totally rusting away. And fact check that. And the only way that you could say put a new generator in them, hoist something like that up, or replace one of these blades that go flying out, and you notice how they're always near highways. Imagine you're driving around the highway. Oh, look how ugly the landscape is. Oh, man, look at that bird just got chopped up by one of those things. And then the next thing you know, you and your wife's head gets chopped off by one of those propellers. That's what happened. You know, that these things are flying off. They're bending over in the wind. See, because they have brakes on there, like you're supposed to react to, like if it's too windy, but they fail. Any kind of move, you know, things with moving parts have to be constantly maintained. That's why you have these like Jiffy Lubes. You put oil in your engine and transmission, and if you have heavy equipment, you're always greasing it. Any moving part. But they don't maintain these things. There's no chain of custody. And it would take fossil fuels. It would take giant cranes like the type of the size they use to build skyscrapers. What about the hook and ladders, you know, that go and put out a fire on the 40th floor or something like that? You think they run on fossil fuel only? They don't run on batteries. Elon Musk doesn't have an answer for that. And Elon Musk, like big long truck, isn't going to carry, you know, a container tanker, container filled with like things like refrigerators or something really heavy. You might be able to like transport, you know, some cherries from Mexico or something. Anyway, I wanted to originally broadcast in that face that you see that says, "We're the aliens." And I tried my darndest to do it this morning, but I couldn't. And it's because I was rushed. I slept till 4, which was good. I would like to have stayed in bed till 5. It's 5:26 a.m. So what did you do for the last hour and a half? Run into the restroom. Ready myself for the day. Get dressed. Run up to the attic. With my little electric hand pump, siphon pump, I guess you could call it. Siphon water out of these collection buckets into a big bucket. Open the window. Throw the stuff out. I hope I closed the fucking window. Once I left it open for like 2 or 3 days. That's all I need. Place for rats or something to go climbing up. Pretty sure I closed it. Because it was cold. It would have been cold weather, right? I hope. I have to go back up after the show anyway. Surprisingly, only a couple of them were filled up. So far, so good. I mean, I figure at some point, you put enough layers on, it's got to hold until the layers, my biggest fear is that the layer is going to go boosh. You know, like the pressure of the water is just going to let go. You got too many layers of stuff that's trying to stop this leak. It's just going to push it out, right? I mean, that follows the law of physics. You know, dynamics, you know, some sort of dynamics. Water, fix your roof dynamics. Roof dynamics. Roof leak dynamics. Then I had to feed the cat, which it won't eat its prescription food. After the show, I'll give it its prescription. I have a little thing in its mouth. It's supposed to help this pancreas. It's got pancreatitis, but, you know, we'll see. It's touch and go. If it's not chronic, you know, if sometimes a cat can heal from it. And if it switches to the proper diet, you know, it could, it could be managed. The cat, it's not like he has white whiskers. And this is the thing I was trying to tell a friend of mine. I was saying, you know, I've always been cat owner. And old cats and dogs, you know, when they get old, you know, they get little white whiskers and white chin. Yeah, like, you know, not white like in the color white, like in like a white spot on a cat or some black cat or something like that. But you know what I mean? They look like they're old. He just still looks like a middle-aged kitten, you know? I mean, he has still a kitten face and stuff like that. This coffee sucks. I had 4 prunes for breakfast. I was going to eat an apple, but I was just running out of time. I kept my weight off yet, though I didn't even exercise yesterday. And I didn't get my EBT today, which means I'm out of healthy food. Yesterday I had a salad that contained no lettuce or greens of any kind. It was strictly like broccoli, cauliflower, canned salmon. I gave the cat some of the juice from the salmon. The water was salmon in water. It really can't hurt it. I mean, there might have been some salt in there or something. I don't know. About a week ago, I had given him a couple of these cranberry chews, which help with urinary tract things in case that's a problem. But this morning he went. When I came down, the litter box had both in it, though there was one piece next to the litter box. But I forgot to clean that. I cleaned it up, but I mean, I forgot to like Clorox wipe that spot, which I should do now, but I can't. I'm on live TV. Like Green said, live TV. What happened to Tom Green? The Tom Green show. He like bought this place in Canada. This big piece of land and stuff, and he said he was going to be doing all this stuff. Promises. So I don't know. Maybe he's just waiting for the weather. He's like snowed in Canada. But I don't know what happened to him. Let's take a look. Let's go over to Tom Green. Let's see. Display capture. New window. And let's see if you're seeing the new window. New window. YouTube. Yeah, you're seeing it. Well, I see myself there. I don't know why they have these weird workout videos with women, young women and stuff. See, this is really bothers me. This is like how I think they try to, they mess with you. You have to very watch what they put in your feed and never click on it. Okay. Because, so here's Tom 1 month ago. Yeah, I was right. He hasn't really done anything in a month. So let's look at this. It looks like he's got some kind of membership thing too. He's showing us the snow. Let's put it in theater mode. So I reckon Tom Green podcast from February 9th. So it's over a month ago. I guess that's his land up there. There he comes. We're not going to be able to hear him, I don't think. And his trusty dog, Charlie. Well, I figured as much. So it looks like Tom Green got snowed in. It happens, man. All right, so here we are, like I said, or maybe not. No, I didn't say. It's the 24th of March, calendar year 2022. It's 5:33. I noticed earlier there was a bunch of coal trucks as I was getting this together. And, the thing about that is I'm just going to mess around with a couple of things here. I don't have the ability there. Filters. Oh, that's artwork. Okay. I was going to make that left justified, but I can't. Just a graphic artist in me. Former graphic designer. I don't know what I am now, to tell you the truth. So yesterday, let's see. Try to give you an update. All right, the cat is somewhat just hanging in there. All right, I mean he's able to go up and down the stairs. He's not eating his food. He did eat some of his crunchies last night because he was out of desperation. I had two different I got these like paper, plates. Because because I know I end up throwing the food away, and it's like I'm not going to wash them 3 times a day. So I get these paper plates, and I had tried originally mixing some of this prescription food that the vet, charged us for. It had a purchase. It said mix it in, phase him in with some other food, If you read up on this, the papers, the veterinarian writings on this are iffy to begin with, whether or not whether these special food diets work or not. Though they're mainly pushing liquids. And he's on this medicine, that I have to give him for 10 days or something. So I'm hoping that medicine will do whatever it has to do. Like I say, he used the litter box. So he's functioning. Yesterday he didn't. Well, he did. He's getting moisture and it's passing through his body. So all I can hope is that he gets his appetite back, and keeps drinking liquids and whatever. I've been putting water in with his food, but I'm out of. I just used his last can of food. Fishy food, because he won't eat the stuff they gave him. I mean, he just won't eat it. Last night I left it out all night long, and he ended up resorting to eating some of the crunchy food that was in the bowl from the whole day, left over from the morning prior I put there, that he didn't touch all day long. So even out of desperation and hunger, he just went to chewing the dry food. He will not touch this stuff. He's finicky. It's chicken flavor. He never was a chicken thing. And according to a friend of mine who picked up the stuff from the vet, said, well, that's only available in that thing. It's got to be fishy or he won't touch it. And he's finicky like that, and he will not, even in starvation mode, he would rather, eat some kind of crunchy or go without. He will not touch it. He's just not interested in it. It's like they used to have, I used to see some of these foods, that's like grilled chicken, grilled, backyard grilled feast for cats or something. It's like, no. Beef, no. Sometimes the beef liver thing, he might touch that. But his primary thing, it's got to be like fishy. It's got to be like salmon and, that, or salmon, anchovies, tuna, maybe anchovies and whitefish. I mean, it's got to be fishy, which it's a good thing I have in my kitchen. I have a garbage can with a lid on it, that closes down, which I still have to spray Lysol in to keep the, even if there's, even on the day I took out the garbage, there's a wheeze in there somewhere. Anyway, I got this thing from this, the doctor, there's some government thing. I've had so many CT scans that I don't know. I mean, I hate to say it, but I've been overexposed to radiation. And I got some thing in there saying, well, if you were a former smoker, I haven't smoked in a long time. I mean, I've puffed on a cigar, but I haven't smoked cigarettes. I never smoked. I wasn't a lifelong smoker. And when I did smoke, whatever. But they're saying if you're somebody who did smoke, as he does this thing, you need to get a low dose CT scan to check. I just had one. I mean, I just had about 5. I had a CT scan of the frickin' head. Just look at I have a CT scan. You see, the medical profession, the left side doesn't know what the right side doing. Your doctor doesn't know what your specialist is doing. Your specialist doesn't know what another specialist is doing. And all these charts, this whole great thing about digitalization of everything, putting AI and algorithms and reconnecting all this data, it's not right. It doesn't work. The internet is broken. So there's 2 things I do want to talk about today. And one is we live in worlds we create in our own minds, part 2. Okay, I will talk. We will be talking about that. The show is young. All right, you know.
After he's stalked, we must get rid of him immediately.
So, you know. Yeah. So first of all, you know, I did an essay. AI is a lie. It's in one of my books, earlier books, and then of course I have a book here where I actually did the research, and actually had a conversation, reprinted a conversation I had with a GPT-3 AI. You know, and dealt with the hard problem of consciousness in that same, but it was still a free flow of consciousness. So there's like autobiographical stuff in there. And then, of course, my latest book here. All right. Which you can see I have like if you look closely, there's one of me as that alien guy on there. Anyway, I couldn't get that to work properly, so that was like kind of a waste of time, because that's how I started this show off, trying to tell you the things I did. Fed the cat, ran upstairs, 3 times had to add more water to the food that I gave him, because he just licks it anyway. He like kind of licks it, and you hope that enough of it gets on his tongue that he's getting some solid food in him. You see? It's frustrating. It's tough. You know what I mean? And then I had to get all this stuff prepared. Tried to do what you're seeing there, me with the face, you know, the bug eye face, right? We're the aliens, which we are the aliens. We're totally out of place on this planet, if you think about it. Totally out of place. And and also you can see how that fake YouTube thing looks like it's being drawn into a black hole behind me, right? But yeah, we live in worlds, you know, we're taking in so much craziness, right? Before I went to bed, I watched about 5 different videos on how to get rid of rats in your yard, which really didn't leave me in a good position. And, you know, having no breakfast, I should be eating something in front of you. But, you know, I've been able to take off the weight I wanted to take off. I still would like, in an ideal, I would like to take off, ideally, let's see, from where I am today, which is ridiculous because today's weight, it's just because I haven't had any food in the house, hardly. But from today's weight, I would like to take, if I took off 12 pounds, I would be like ideal weight, you know, ideal weight. And with some exercise, and maybe if I did a little, you know, minor weight training, I'm not into, you know, getting in. I had one of those things. I had my own work gym that I could do all that stuff. But this, you know, imbecile that destroyed that building, it's now sold. So, you know, that's lost. And those things are expensive. And I had to build it. It took me 2 days to build the thing. I mean, building your own station gym, which I had in my just giant bedroom condo thing I built with a king size bed and a tiled, you know, 4-star, 5-star hotel bath, you know, spa like bath, and white carpet on the floor, which I kept pristine. You know, and outside the door, a homemade bar. It cost like a couple of grand because I had to bring guys in to build the base, the foundation of it, and tile that floor. All lost. Anyway, that's a long story. Man, the things that people do, you know? People are weird. It's like that song by this girl that apparently YouTube doesn't know about it. That's wrong keyboard. So, I mean, I don't think I ever got a copyright strike for playing this. I told a story about this girl. I met her once, like, over 20 years ago.
rest is simple history. Your closest friend until the end, my dear, the end is here. With me, you'll find yourself just basking in our friendship's luck. That's what they told me, but I found out how much people suck. Yeah, people suck. Yeah, people suck.
You know, she's right.
Hello. 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 Hello.
Okay. So, you know, we're aliens on this planet, so we got no right. People talking about save the planet. Save the planet. It's not your planet to save. All right. You're here. If you're lucky, you're here for, 80, 90 years. The life expectancy right now has dropped by a couple of years in the US of A, so forget it. Processed foods. I also watched a thing that was almost an hour long. A presentation by a nutritionist and an MD about processed foods. And I was talking about this yesterday, briefly, not that particular thing. I watched this yesterday on top of that. And yesterday they were playing games. They were trying to disconnect me because I guess big ag and big, big tech and I don't know, the FDA and all these people. I mean, you walk into a supermarket, what they were basically saying is they did studies of various supermarket chains, even these chains that push themselves on having, I don't want to say the name, but that the foods are not complete. What's a word that rhymes with complete? Complete foods. Another way of saying complete foods, right? Anyway, they go through these places and they found that over 90% of the food in the store, and these were like studies, meticulous studies, in other words, where they sent, their students in. It's a research project, with smartphones and tablets and stuff like that, kind of undercover, but I mean, assigned to an aisle type of thing, but literally go through every item in the store. And they found out that 90%, something like over 90% of the items in the store were processed. And you'll say, yeah, but I don't know. The store I go to has this giant produce section. Think about the produce section. In comparison to the volume of food that's like on all of those shelves, right? Think about it. You got apples, but they're bigger. You've got, sorry, I've got to blow my nose, do something with my nose. I trim my nose hairs. Because I try to keep myself groomed. I put alcohol on the little scissors, unless I use the electronic thing. Anyway, so your first thing is saying, no, they have they have a whole produce aisle where I go. I mean, it's like all over the place. What are you talking about? Well, no. Because if you really look closely at the produce aisle, let me take down this ridiculous alien thing for a second. There's this area that's got lemons in this like thing. Then there's a big square that's got onions, right? I can't. It's like what the, where am I supposed to sit? Anyway. Otherwise, I can't put items over on this side. So yeah, it's all the screen is backwards and backwards. I don't know how else to say it, So anyway, so the raw numbers. So when you look in the produce aisle the next time, you can see, okay, I see they got a lot of lettuce here, a lot of big tomatoes, and, and healthy things like avocados, whatever. So it's not like you can't go in the store. I go in the store and I come home with like 2, 3, 4 bags of healthy foods. But when you go down the various aisles, so to speak, there's like floor to above your reach items that are just packed in there. So the sheer number of processed foods way outnumber the raw vegetables or raw fruits or things like that. And so, man, it's like I have heart palpitations because I'm drinking caffeine. I didn't have a proper breakfast, and I rushed through this day, and now I have a heart attack on air. I just got to relax for a second. Craziness. So the whole idea here, coffee and caffeine is not the answer. But, this is what happens. I didn't get my card. I'm not going to, like I was saying before, yesterday I had to make a salad out of just things you put in a salad, right? So anyway, the sheer number of things outnumber anything that is good, over 90%. And processed foods are killing us. They're high in carbs and sugars, which are basically the same. And there's high fructose corn syrups in all these drinks, okay? And so what happened, and that's sugar, because they, And so what happened, what these nutritionists are telling us is that this is why the U.S., among all the so-called Western nations, are high income, advanced nations, as opposed to the poorer nations around the world. We actually have the worst diet, the worst health, the worst, and the lowest life expectancy. I keep talking about this. 40,000 people die every week of things that are treatable, preventable, but mainly preventable. Some would be curable if they would focus on them. But they're heart-related things. They're diabetes, type 2 diabetes, kidney-related. They're all related, not all. I mean, cancer, there are, is food, but the things, they're all related to diet. And if you had a good diet, you'd even have a stronger immune system, and you'd even be able to push off bugs, various bugs and stuff. But people aren't eating the right foods. They're not eating the foods that are good for them. Foods that, they're eating these processed foods that are just filled. And it's the problem is, it's not that fats are bad for you. Fats aren't necessarily bad for you. In fact, the cell wall is basically comprised of fat. That's what makes up the cell wall. That's one of the reasons why, you get fat, like the fat just keeps getting stored, and people get fat because all this fat gets stored, and, it's got to be stored somewhere, right? But it's this combination of fats, carbs, and sugars that aren't being properly dealt with that's, reduced our life expectancy. And so Americans are, that's unbelievable. So I say, it all gets back to this idea. These people think they're going to save America, and they think they're going to build back better, which they've changed the name of, or even the Great Reset people. If you're in America and you're a child of the Great Reset or whatever the new Build Back America is, or Save America, you don't know your own country. This is the former United States, and you know that. And that's why you're saying save it, because you want it to go back to the way it was. But the point is, it's too far gone. All right? Just take a look. In other words, it's a generational thing. If you were able to save it, it would take several generations. It would take like, a ridiculous amount of time, 60 to 100 years, and the planet's not going to, we're not going to, there's too many things that are going to happen in the next decades, natural disaster and existential things that we're not going to make it that long. And we should be focused because that's what we have. We have these cyclical cataclysms, all right? And we're heading towards one, but there's still all these, it's a shooting gallery and we're hurling through space on this rock, right? And this rock is in a state of flux. That's why my site's called ROCKFLUX. And people just don't understand this. And instead of focusing on their own quality of life and the quality of life of the people they care about, or just other people in general, they're armchair warriors watching the news and sending money over to some foreign country of hackers and people and feeling sorry for people. It's like, why don't you feel sorry for the people in Southeast Asia and people in Africa and people in Mexico? There's been people in Venezuela who are like totally suffering, in these weird areas in central. Why do you think these people coming over the border, why do you think they want to come to America? I mean, literally millions of them. They're trying to come up here for a better life. You see? But they don't understand it. And once you get here and you get on the American diet and you start living here, your chances of survival I wish somebody would like do a media campaign down in Mexico, Central America, and South America about what it's like in the U.S. and say the following. If you come to the U.S., there's 2,000 people are murdered a week in the U.S. The gangs basically run most of the inner cities, all right? Gangs, the same gangs that you're trying to run from, the cartel-type gangs, all right? 40,000 people a week are dying of, preventable, treatable, and even curable ailments, okay? Your life expectancy, if you come to the U.S., is going to drop by a couple of years. Chances of you being a victim of crime, right? You being thrown in, coming in and being pushed into some kind of wage slavery job, living in a place with like roaches and rats. That's like the America that you're coming from, Central America, Mexico, and South America. And there's a lot of people out there, not that I have a lot of followers, but there's people out there going like, what kind of world's he talking about, man, that guy? Yeah, why don't you wake up? Because you're living in the burbs for the time being, but between the high prices of products, inflation, food shortages, reduced what processed foods are doing to you, and you don't even know it. The procedures you're going to have once you enter your 50s. See, that's the whole problem right now. There's too many people going out to like rallies and getting behind people who are these people who are like kind of semi-retired. It's like that song by Janice Ian at 17 where she was like lamenting about these girls who were like cheerleaders or whatever, who married young, then retired. Remember that line in that song? Are you old enough to remember that? Who married young, then retired, right? These women, in the days when, before you had both parents had to work, right? Who married young, then retired. And so you have that generation, these people, if you ever look at these rallies you see, and I'm talking about Save America rallies and stuff like that, there's a lot of people there who married young, then retired, or they might have worked or whatever. But I mean, they're 50-ish, a lot of 50-ish people in those crowds. There's young people. But the point is, they're well off because how the hell are you going to go to, like, I remember, I've watched a lot of these rallies and the speaker used to say, "Hey, I've seen you girls before," meaning ladies, women in their 50s. "Oh, how many rallies have you been at?" And they'd be like, 45, right? It's like in that movie, Vince Vega. And it's like, who has the money and the freedom to travel across the country to be a groupie to go to these rallies, right? And spend like 2 days there. It's almost like tailgating. It's modern tailgating for like the Grateful Dead type of stuff. It's just an older, affluent people. If they're not affluent, they're wasting their money because it's or whoever, somebody's money. So they're not aware that the inner cities are crime-ridden, high-taxed, overpriced hellholes on the verge of becoming Mad Max dystopias. I mean, that's a real bold statement. And I know there's some people out there that would go like, this guy is literally out of his mind. But that's a true statement because the statistics support it. The government statistics support it. When you have nearly half, maybe more, but, according to the government, nearly half the people in this country are functionally illiterate, right? And the younger you go, the one more upcoming, that's what throws it over the halfway mark, are basically, future functionally illiterate people being taught revisionist history, blah, 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 blah. When you have runaway inflation, high interest rates, housing bubble again, which means they're going to do, you think they're not going to have a reassessment next year, which means your taxes aren't going to go sky high. That's how they're going to secretly tax the rich or the upper middle class, what's left of it. Because the middle class is gone. You have a working class right now that's feeling kind of okay because they've gotten a raise. You see, the minimum wages have risen. So there's people that got a few extra bucks an hour now, and that's enough. And it's still the price, even though the price of gas has gone up, a lot of these people don't have cars and stuff. So it's not really affecting them that much yet. But if you go to the supermarket, the price of foods are, but that's not affecting them that much either because they're still, they're young enough. They're street kids. And I don't mean like they're street bums or something like that, but I mean they're spending most of the time outside. They're not having dinner parties or they're not sitting around. They don't have families, right? We know that's not happening in this country. People aren't having families and having a kid, right? And the ones that do are having children later in life and stuff like that, or adopting or something of that kind. In which case that does nothing because, the population is just dropping. Anyway, you're just giving an opportunity to a child, which is a beautiful thing for someone to do. Okay? Give an opportunity for someone who might have been caught and trapped in foster care or something weird like that for their whole life. All right? Unless you're like the very rich elite that go to these foreign countries and they literally buy these children. I always found that to be abhorrent, disgusting, right? I mean, that's almost like slavery or something. They buy these children, and these families sell these kids. This is what goes on. But anyway, so there's a lot of people in this country that don't know this is going on. So they don't know that half the country's functionally illiterate and getting dumber, right? That America has been dumbed down and is getting, dumber, to use basic words. They haven't felt the pinch of high inflation, runaway inflation. In other words, when I say the price of tomato paste went from 39 cents to 85 cents, or sauce went from 39 cents to 95 cents, just a little store-bought, little can I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the jar stuff. That's always been pretty expensive. People are going, well, I never even tomato paste. Who buys that? Right? Because if they want pasta or something like that, they go to the frozen food aisle. And this gets back to this idea of processed foods. So people just buy processed foods. It's something you could put in the microwave or put in your oven, right? Then they have these things for the elite, that these boxes of food that can be sent to your house. Do you know how expensive that stuff is? I can't afford that. I can't afford that. The average working person can't afford that. You know, what I call the wage slave. Right? $15 an hour doesn't, like, it can't make you afford that. You know, that's like these people, like, you know, AOC's been pushing this idea. It says to Biden, well, why don't you just pass an executive order forgiving student debt? And I told someone yesterday, I said, you know, I'm not like a jealous person, envious person in that regard. You know, in other words, I have these human emotions like anybody else. So yeah, I might have the slightest bit of envy of somebody who doesn't have a leaky roof or something like that. But I mean, I don't, like, it's not something that's on my mind, like, But I said, yeah, forgive their debt. I don't care. You know, at this point, it's all fake money. It's funny money. It's fiat currency in the past. Now it's digital ledgers. They just transfer overnight to the various members of the central banks, and that trickles in through the banking system, through the Federal Reserve System, this private banking system that basically is tied into other central banks around the world. And they're going to be putting in a crypto, like I was trying to tell you the other day, that's basically going to have serial numbers on each transaction similar to the serial number on a dollar bill. I'm so broke, I don't even have a dollar bill to show you. I don't have a dollar bill in this house, a single piece of a dollar bill. In fact, the only thing I have is a Kennedy half. That's it. I think there might be some pocket change over there on the other side. But I mean, not even a quarter. It would be pennies, maybe a couple of dimes. I'll be lucky if there would be dimes. Probably pennies and some nickels. That's what I have in my house. That's how much money I have. That's it. But anyway, so what was I talking about? Oh, fiat currency. So yeah, they're going to put this serial number on it in every transaction. And this has been in the minutes of the Federal Reserve. So this is happening. This is coming down. Now, none of this stuff is really has come to the fore because it's an election year and there's these people that are true believers and they think, oh, we're going to get a new Congress and that'll change things. We'll build, save the country. We have laws on every law you can imagine. There are laws on the books that Congress has passed that the average American doesn't even know. And they've been there for decades and decades and decades and decades. Many, many, many moons ago, I used to get the congressional record delivered to my house. Okay? It got to the point where I had to cancel it because it was ridiculous. It was just stacking up. And a congressional record, they put everything in there. People are putting all kinds of stuff in there. And that's when my eyes were open to the corruption because I used to read it because I used to take a commuter train. This is when I was young, and I lived in the main line outside of Philadelphia where there's commuter trains that go into Center City, and I had a job in Center City. And so I used to read like the Wall Street Journal or the Philadelphia Inquirer, and sometimes I would take one of these congressional record things with me, right? And then I would just discard it, at the station in a trash can there, right? So it would be less stuff I'd have to deal with myself because the stuff was piling up. You can't imagine what's in a congressional record. So, like, basically everything's illegal, or there's laws and stuff, and then there's all kinds of provisions, and people and all kinds of congressmen have gotten all kinds of sweet deals. And, they call it used to call it pork, stuff for their districts and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is that, do you see anybody abiding by the laws of the land? Right? No. You can change Congress and there could be all this soapbox posturing media nonsense in the world. the problem is the gangs and the people in the inner cities and these like that Lightfoot governor of Chicago and Detroit, or however you pronounce it, they don't pay attention to that crap. Criminals don't, people wouldn't kill, maim, rape, rob, assault, burn, do any of the things they do if they would abide by rules. And that's the same with the so-called white-collar crimes, right? These people that are involved in, everything from extortion to, absconding with the company funds and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's another delusion, people living in their own world. It's kind of, it's almost a segue into my thing. We live in worlds we create in our own minds. And there's too many people living in a world of their own mind, from overexposure and this indoctrination or conditioning or this daily bombardment of propaganda and this jingoism about a war where more people are dying in 1 week in this country that will ever die from that war over across the sea, or in a couple of weeks, more people are dying in this country preventably, right, than died in all those stupid Middle Eastern wars in the entire 21st century, the last two decades. You could go back 3 decades, right, and say, in a month or so, Americans. But we don't care about Americans, you see? We don't care that, close to 100,000 people are murdered in this country every year, and that most of those are unsolved. Where's our great and glorious FBI and J. Edgar Hoover, that murdering SOB whose name is on the FBI building? Guy killed Bobby Kennedy, right? Tried to get Martin Luther, was involved in the death of Martin Luther King, but definitely tried to get Martin Luther King to commit suicide. The letters exist. He arrested him, and he was sending him letters telling him, I'm going to tell your wife that you cheated on her. You might as well commit suicide now because it's going to get really bad for you. This is J. Edgar Hoover to Martin Luther King Jr. And they got his name on the fucking building of the FBI. And there's people go to work every day, and they're like proud, thinking they're Boy Scouts and they're doing good for America. Hey, why don't you solve those, million murders that have occurred in the United States, since post 9/11, right? 2 million. No, I'm sorry, 2 million murders, right? Why don't you solve those? Well, if it wasn't across border, state lines and stuff, it's out of FBI jurisdiction. Or we're working on it. That's a cold case, and we have to be called in. Bullshit. And meanwhile, the local cops, are beating up some old lady, because she didn't have a thing on her face or something or whatever. They're still pushing this thing.
This is a nightmare. It must be a nightmare.
Yeah, it is, man.
This is insane.
So I'm not going to get too vocal, crazy on this one. But, it's just, this is what I'm trying to say. People, you're living in your own mind. The amount of, how far out of touch with reality we are. We're the aliens on this frickin' planet. Okay? We're so out of place. Things are so whacked out. And Western civilization has fallen. And what's left? And there's these people living certain lives and they think, oh, I'm comfortable, in a cul-de-sac with my 2 or 3 car garage and my SUVs. And we'll get over this and we'll save America and blah, blah, blah. You're not going to save America. All right? Wasn't it tried 5 years ago? When what happened? You don't understand. The powers that be are so frickin' powerful. The bureaucracy has its tentacles everywhere. There is no changing. People don't follow the rules. And besides, with every passing year, first of all, the Great Reset already happened back in 2019 into 2020. People don't even understand that. So that's already in place. So by 2024, it'll be like 5 years. Forget that. That's like saying, we're going to change the Patriot Act or something. They never did. It's 5 years. Once something's so entrenched, with millions and millions of government, bureaucrats and a corporatocracy, technocracy, whatever you want to call it, it didn't work. The last guy, even when he tried to even do anything, they impeached him twice. His own people on his staff were like passing rumors about him, releasing false documents. Everything has come out now that he was right about half these things, but it didn't matter, and nobody's going to jail. They threw some token lawyer, slapped his wrist, some token lawyer who actually changed a document. The guy should have been sent to Guantanamo or something, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. And there's people, they're living in their own world. They don't know it. Now, the extreme upper, the billionaire class, they're somewhat protected. But they'll get theirs as the cataclysms come. So what you should be concerned with right now, more so than anything else, is the quality of life while you have life, while you're alive, every moment you have. Like I was thinking today, it was very refreshing. I mean, a couple of the bins were pretty well filled up high, but they weren't at the point of completely overflowing. All right. And I do see I have a problem. So there may be some leakage into my bedroom, but I have a bucket underneath my Rube Goldberg device. I found one of the spots, but there's nothing I could do because it's going to be cold and rainy for the next week or so. But I think I found the spot, one of the serious spots. And so I even have the caulk to do it, but it's wet. That spot's wet. And I'm sure there might be some leakage down there. But I've greatly reduced it for the time being. And this was my goal, is to get it down to a point where I could get through the night without having to go up there in the middle of the night. My face doesn't look thin, though. It should look thinner, considering I've lost some weight. It's kind of weird. But anyway, once I take off that last 12 pounds, if I can. But I'm going to be forced to eat like pasta or something today, because I eat pasta, you gain 2 pounds. It doesn't matter what you do, even if you exercise. Or sometimes if I take a long walk down to the grocery store and back and hoof it back up the hill carrying a couple of bags of stuff, it'll neutralize what I eat. Of course, if I go down there, I'll buy some lettuce. I might do it, Do it. Hey, go on and do it. Do it. Right? Yeah, do it.
Okay.
So, I don't mean to be the harbinger of bad news constantly, but I mean, you know what I'm saying. And if you don't know, you really need to know. So back to where I was talking about before, I might as well put some more light on the face. The true marionettes are the media politicians. Some of them don't even know it. Like, they don't know it. If you're brought up through a system, there's professors that are teaching things to students in college from textbooks that they were taught when they went to college. See, this is generational. This now goes back decades and decades. A lot of this stuff started, these planners had planned this, like this began like 40 years ago. All right. And so you have two generations. You know, I always look at a generation as like coming of age, like 21-ish type of thing. So, you know, 22, you go back to 44 years ago, right? And so, you know, roughly 40 years ago. But I mean, to be precise, 21. Actually, yeah, 21. It would be 42 years ago. And today's 22. That would be 1980. And so that's when it all started falling apart, you know, because at that point, and there were people, that's when they decided to really take charge. Now, 60 years ago, Eisenhower warned about it in that speech, which I don't need to play. I play it so many times on this show, about the military-industrial complex. That's what's going on right now over in Europe. Okay? That's war-profiteers. That's military contractors trying to make hundreds of billions of dollars at the cost. And there's people sending money over, and they don't realize that half that money's being basically shaved off the top anyway. Military-industrial complex and mercenaries, all kinds of other people are getting a hold of that stuff. All right? Very little aid. It's the same with this NGOs and foundations. Very little of that because of the bureaucracy, the structure of these places, right? Very little gets through. The first documentary film I ever made, I was just out of college. And I don't want to mention the organization, but it's a major organization. It's kind of an umbrella organization, all right? In other words, there are a lot of organizations underneath it. And so you give to this one nationally known organization. And we did a documentary, me and a filmmaker from Australia, actually. He went back to Australia. But it was about it's an American company. We did this. He was studying here. And so I produced it. He directed it. And so we did this thing, this promotional film for them. They wanted a promotional film. And so we had to learn as much as we could about the organization. And when we got halfway through our research, we were looking at each other, you know, as we're putting together, you know, basically the storyboards at that point. We figured out what we were going to do, what shots we were going to have, and blah, blah, blah. We're looking at each other sitting at the table going, man, this organization is up to no good. You know, this money isn't going to these, they're not, you know, this money isn't really getting to the people in need. And this was an organization that's like, you would know the name. And they get millions and millions, you know, of dollars. And don't, you know. And that was another eye-opener. Just like I told you, the congressional records were an eye-opener. And like I said, I lived and worked in Capitol Hill, and I was, you know, lived in all these cities. So like I say, I'm telling you firsthand, I've happened to have, and it was just random. I didn't set out to be some kind of investigative guy, blah, 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 and discover this, and be the vlog of truth, the mad prophet of the airways, like Howard Beale up there. It was like the last thing on my mind. I just wanted to like find a beautiful woman and, you know, get married or something. That didn't work out. I got married twice. It didn't work out. That's another story. So anyway, you have no idea. Like I said, if you've seen what I've seen with these eyes, you'd know. And that's kind of that's the driver for me doing these things. Because it's the truth. 30 frames per second, as I say. People have no idea what's going on. And when they hear it, they doubt it. They think, oh, that can't be true. That's not true. You know? That can't be true. I guess We're the Aliens is like clickbait, but not really. I explained why we are. We are the aliens. We're so out of touch with the planet, and life and everything else. And it doesn't make sense. There is no missing link. We haven't found the missing link. I mean, I don't know. This planet, there's no saving the planet. The planet's fine. The planet is basically trees, ocean, and fungi and insects and all that stuff. The planet has its own ecosystem, and, it's got the sun, and the sun basically, controls the climate and all that stuff. People don't know anything about that. And, and we're these like, we're here, and instead of just like being happy and like saying, hey, look at this beautiful planet. Look at the beautiful sun. Look at the clouds. Look at the trees, the fields, the brooks, the waterfalls, the ocean, the waves, the stars. Living life, having a decent day and stuff like that. The beauty of 5 senses, and to experience those senses to the fullest, and to share life with another person and different things like that. Instead of that, people are all like protesting. We want this, we want that. Or they're like dishing out money, giving it to some war thing, when their own community and people at home here are dying in numbers that dwarf anything going on across the Atlantic. Dwarf it. Since the beginning of this war, I think there have been more people murdered in the United States than have been bombed or over there. Think about that. What's it been, almost like the 3rd week or something like that? We've had about 6,000 murders, statistically, dividing, and we've had about 120,000 people die unnecessarily of things that are probably based on processed foods and lifestyle and bad medicine. Right? People telling you the wrong thing. I cut out carbs. I stopped eating cereal. I was eating cereal every day for breakfast because it was like I was buying this stuff. I have this thing here. Yeah. I forgot. This is, if you can look at that. This is something I took from, this is a government website. A healthy, balanced diet consists of. And so I just did the printout of what it said. And so I'll read it to you. I could have put it up on the screen, but plenty of fruit and vegetables. Aim to have at least 5 portions each day. Okay, well, the vegetable part is true. All right, you should eat a lot of vegetables because you can get everything from vegetables. All right, this affects the light. So weird. So weird. But watch your fruits, though, because fruits have sugars in them, like things like blueberries and stuff like that. You got to watch that. Actually, blackberries are a little bit better than blueberries as far as the sugar and the way the sugar and fiber react. But, blueberries are healthy for you, but just don't get crazy with them. So aim to have at least 5 portions each day, plenty of fruit and vegetables. It's more like plenty of vegetables with some fruit. All right? Now, here's the one that's ridiculous. This is the government now. Plenty of starchy carbohydrates. Now, I wonder who lobbied this one. Examples include bread, rice, cereals, pasta, potatoes, and it says choose whole grain varieties where possible. And of course, I had put, highlighter over starchy carbs and whole grain. So I switched because I was having these health problems. So I started buying these cereals, Vitality, whatever, whole grain, certain kind of cereal, right? No GMO or something, no, all natural, this type of stuff. Well, basically, all these things they list on this are bad for you. including whole grain. Whole grain's actually worse than even the processed grain in a sense, because the way the body deals with it. Some milk and dairy products, 2 to 3 portions per day. Choose low-fat dairy options. No, not really. Some meat, fish, eggs, and alternatives such as beans and pulses. You shouldn't eat. The beans aren't good for you. Limit the amounts of food high in fats and sugars. Well, they're right about high in sugars, but they told you before to eat a lot of fruits. That's sugars. And they're telling you starchy carbohydrates. They're all sugars. What do you think a carbohydrate is? Now, fats aren't that bad. Limit saturated fat that is found in animal products such as butter, cheese, blah, blah. Make sure your diet is high in fiber. I do that. This can be found in beans, again, fruit and vegetables, oats. I was eating oats every day as the foundation and then putting cereal on top of it. And whole grain products such as bread, pasta, and rice. They're like pushing this again. 2 times they're telling you. All right? And then they're telling you to drink plenty of liquids. And try not to eat too much fat at one meal time. And then they also talked about eating peanuts and stuff like that, or whatever. Well, the point of the matter is, that's the government thing. And like they have that food pyramid, and that's the FDA and all this crap. I looked at the side of the box. I started reading the box, on the side. Not only were these whole grain healthy cereals and pastas ridiculously high in carbs. I mean, ridiculously high in carbs. 30, 40 grams sometimes. But they had all these added sugars in them. Even when it was like, they would say some would say no added sugars, but there would be sugars in them. They just didn't add any. I don't know how that works either. And the fiber wasn't as high as you would think. And I was like gaining weight. I stopped eating sugar in 1 week. I dropped like 5-7 pounds. Just by stop eating cereal with blueberries on them every morning for breakfast. And everything else in my diet was the same. I'd have these salads or whatever. But then I ran out of salad, so I started to eat some pastas. Okay? And I even bought whole grain pasta. They make that stuff. It's expensive. I wasted money on it. It's like, because you could normally, you used to be able to get pasta for like 88 cents a box at the grocery store I went to. Then they raised it to $1 a box. Now it's like $1.29 a box, right? Or something like that. So you see what I mean, how they lie about inflation. So to go from 88 cents to say it was 128, you know what I mean? You're talking about a 40-cent increase. All right? That's ridiculous, right? It's insane. Might not seem much to you, but like if you think overall, if everything you're buying is like 40 cents, 50 cents, 60 cents more expensive, some cases it's $1 more. When you look at gas and forget about lumber, and like I told you, the price of soil in the back, for my raised beds, it's like double. I've got to deal with rats. I watch these videos about that. I'm going to have to trap and kill them, and I don't want to do that. But I'm going to first try a lot of steel wool and some other things. I tried the cayenne pepper, and that doesn't seem to have been a deterrent. These people tell you this stuff with such, as they're so sure of it in these YouTube videos. Cayenne pepper. So I bought cayenne pepper. I put it right in with one of these holes where the rat was going. It just went right in it. It didn't affect the thing. They don't give a shit. It's not a deterrent. I put it along the fence line. Fortunately, I bought it at the Dollar Tree, so it was only $1.25. But remember, the dollar stores, Dollar Trees are now, that's a 25% increase from, they used to be everything $1. Now it's $1.25. So how do they say inflation is only 7.9%? Right? When prices in the grocery store have gone up, like almost doubled in some cases, or went up, Like I say, inflation on the low end is 25 to 33%, and on the high end, it's like 100+%. But people are sitting there, and these upper middle class people who are going to these rallies and stuff, that they're not feeling the pinch. They don't really care. They have extra money. Right? They got extra money. They don't care. They made all this money on the stock market when it just kept going up and stuff. But the average person can't invest in the stock market. So if you're out shopping, you're going like, holy, I can't afford this stuff. So I'm going to try stuffing steel wool. See, these rats mainly most of the big rats live in my next door neighbor, who's a bona fide witch, right? I mean, there she is. She's a witch. And she burns things. They'll burn you, witch. They'll burn you. And she basically burns styrofoam, black trash bags, all kinds of carcinogens there. And she uses carcinogenic, weed killer and that kind of stuff. But she doesn't know that her yard, because she's a hoarder and stuff, she doesn't know that her yard has rats that are like get over here, like this big. Yeah, like sewer rats. Now I noticed in my yard, I saw like yesterday, it's got these little tunnels. I think I saw one, but where there's one, there's more. Little ones. A little one was like tunneling underneath the grass real fast. And I think that's a rat. Field mouse or a rat, but I think it's a rat because they've been doing all this work on the sewers, and I think they chased them all. That's what happened. Same with these roaches and stuff, bugs. And you can't do anything. The city doesn't care. Because, see, the government doesn't care about the people. The government only cares, and the people who work at those government offices, when you call them, you get an answering machine half the time. And if you get somebody, they say, we can't do anything about that, or you have to talk to the sewer authority for that. If you call the sewer authority, they'll say, well, we don't really have, what's not really, you have to talk to the city hall. Like they play that game. And the contractors, if you talk to the contractors, they say, well, nobody told us about anything. And so meanwhile, you're a victim of, you're doing everything you can to like get rid of bugs and rats that you never had before in a clean house like mine. Like very clean house. So I've got this ongoing battle, with not only I have a leaky roof that I'm starting to get a semi-handle on. I mean, like I said, I had to dump a bucket and a fifth or whatever out this morning, and I'll have to go back up and probably dump a bucket out. And it's going to rain for the next several days, so I'll be dumping buckets out daily, several buckets daily. But it's manageable. And that's all I wanted to do was to get it to a point of manageability until such time, till the summertime when I could do something drastically. You see? So right now, what would you be more concerned with? Having seen a roach and a rat in your backyard, a big fat rat, or having to like empty a few buckets of water out of your attic? I think most people would agree that the roach and the rat would be like, hey, honey, we got to move out of here. Right? So now my primary focus is on that, and and it's raining every day because, and so fortunately, so I can't even plant seeds and stuff until I get rid of this rodent problem. So I'm going to try everything under the sun. I've watched every video there is. I've read everything there is, and I know all these various things. And everybody's got a cure. You know, they don't like cayenne. They don't like black pepper. Make this concoction of flour and baking soda. This other guy swore by a concoction of flour and plaster of Paris. And he said, you put in some powdered, like chicken soup. You know, you get that soup in a box, like it's a packet. He said that gives it a good odor to attract them. And what happens is they eat this because it's flour and the soup thing. And they like gobble this stuff down, and then the plaster of Paris kills, you know, gets in their stomach and like, I don't know, hardens up and they die. I didn't want to kill them. That's why I don't want to use traps. I don't have to deal with these dead rats. So I'm hoping that since they live on the other side, the neighbor's yard, I'll put this stuff out. And supposedly the chickens, this was a farmer I was watching. And he said it wasn't a problem for his chickens or dogs or anything like that. They won't touch that stuff. Now, I don't have a dog, but I feed birds. And I figure a bird is like a chicken. If a chicken's not going to peck at it, I don't think birds are. So I'm going to put that stuff around. I hope the birds don't, you know, go after it. But it's powdery. I don't think birds like powdery stuff. And they got enough. I feed them bird seed. They say if you're feeding birds and you have a water thing, get rid of that. It's like, no, I need to do that. I've been feeding birds for 6 years. This is the first year I got rats since they've been working on this fucking sewer line. And since this witch next door has had all these rats in her house and roaches and stuff. So I'm just hoping that these rats will basically eat this stuff and go back over in her yard and die. I'm doing her a favor, right? But I have to deal with this little stuff. And then I've got to like basically, I wanted to have this big overgrown yard, right? A little bit of nature in my, you know, almost like a canopy yard. But now I've got to have this Spartan garden, you know, so I could see every corner and area. You know, there's somebody else that Irish Spring soap, put that around. So I put that in some of the areas where these rats were coming from her side over. They walked right over it. You see what I mean? Everybody has a cure for something. But it's like, you know, I'll try it. But the steel wool thing apparently is workable because, see, they can gnaw through all kinds of stuff. But the problem with steel wool is that it's like their nose, they can't get into it to start gnawing. It starts cutting up their nose and like, you know, their whiskers and stuff before they, because the nose comes out before the mouth. And it's like, they just like give up. It's like they're getting cut up on it. But the amount of steel wool, because the way this lady has this fence line, there's a gap under the fence. Like, well, the fence goes to the ground, and I've concreted most of that. But there's still a gap in some areas that, like, where the planks coming down hit the bottom piece. And that could have been from just wood. You know, over time, wood dries, I guess, and it, you know, basically, shrinks a little. So I have to hope that the Dollar Tree has got steel wool up there. Let's just see a cat. Hey, you. Cat came down on his own, which is nice. I hope he uses a litter box. But he hears me talking. Maybe heard rat. He thought I meant cat. Hi, Blackie. How's the baby kitten? How you doing there, buddy? You feeling better? You're going to get your little, I have his little injection thing I have to inject into his mouth. He hates that, but that's one of the things. Hey, you. You feeling okay? Well, at least you made it downstairs and he's talking. I mean, you know. But he's thin he's like half his weight. The vet claimed that once there's enough of this stuff in him, he should regain some of his appetite. And at least, like I said, last night he ate some crunchies, and his food and water is passing through his body. So he's gotten a lot of rest. They say cats have good healing powers. I'll give him his treatment this morning, and I'm hoping that this will be like the 4th day. I don't know if this is the 3rd treatment. I think the doctor injected him. When he came back, he was like pretty like high almost. I mean, they gave him a B12 shot, intravenous fluids, a shot of this medicine and some other stuff. I had posted it, I think, at one point, what they did. But, that wore off the next day. So now I'm trying to give him this stuff that supposedly directly, something. And I'm just hoping it's going to target this pancreas area. So this will be probably the 3rd treatment I've given him, but this will be the 4th treatment. So I think around the 4th or 5th treatment, he should be getting his appetite back, I would hope. I mean, he lapped up his food. This is the thing, and then I also have to get mortar and stuff to pass. I'm completely flat broke, but I'm not flat broke. In my bank account, I have like $20 or $30. And I have to get canned cat food, salad for myself, because I can't eat pasta. I just do not want to. I want to get down. I want to lose a few more pounds so I'm at a healthy weight, because I haven't been having problems. I think that's helping this problem I was having with my gallbladder. I've been eating, they tell you all the things to eat, that are healthy, gallbladder healthy, liver healthy, that type of stuff. Well, like I say, it's the way I've always lived my life. It's like here's the 10 things that are good, are healthy for a specific thing, right? Well, I always eat all 10 of them, right? I get every one. That's why this list from the government pissed me off, a healthy, balanced diet, because I was following that prior, and that's probably why I have some of these problems. The light gets so weird like that. What else did I need? Some salad items. I have broccoli and cauliflower. That's good. Cauliflower creates bile. Rosemary spice does, but I have some of that. See, there are these certain things, eggs, but you want free range, but not just free range. You want free range pastured eggs from chickens that are free range on pasture. See, sometimes they claim it's free range, but that just means like they left it out of the coop. It could get out of the coop and walk around like a 4-foot area or something. No, you want them to be really free range pastured, chickens running around, getting that variety of, nutrients and all that kind of stuff. But I have some eggs that aren't that, but I made them pickled. And apparently pickled things like sauerkraut and, another thing that's good for you, even though it's fatty, is an avocado. But I noticed the avocados down there the last time, they were $2. So I don't know if I want to see. I have limited funds. Salad, breakfast. I don't know what to eat for breakfast. So I might get an avocado and try that for breakfast. Eat an avocado, put some olive oil on it, just like spoon it in, It's weird, but I'm telling you, I've been eating these the bitter things are good. Like, what do they call it? Various vegetables, odd vegetables that you don't. Artichokes. That's another good one. See, my brain will think of the thing now. And that's another thing I noticed since I've been going on this diet of like getting out of processed foods. And this is what this woman was trying to say. That brain fog and stuff like that, you'll notice a change over a relatively short period of time. And since I've been doing that, I've noticed I would never have I couldn't think of the artichoke thing offhand, but then it came to me. Yeah, Blackie, I'll be up. And I'm going to give you your medicine too. Just bear with me. The show's got a little bit longer to go. I'm trying to make my list, and then I got to go to the store. And you had cat food, and hopefully you're not around here telling me you did something like you didn't use the litter box. Sometimes when he's doing this kind of thing, he's like letting me know that he made a mess somewhere or puked or something. I hope he didn't puke, because he needs to keep as much food down there as possible. Anyway, if that don't mean to gross you out. So, I don't know.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
It's like a day in the life, kind of day in the morning in the life. An update. I have a dozen or so things that are wrong. And I'm just trying to whittle away at each one. I watched the end of that movie, The Stand, and they had some quote in there. I don't know if it was a biblical quote or something about be true. Excuse me. Some quote, be true. And, and that's what I've tried to do, is to be true. And stand. It's a Stephen King, book, based on a Stephen King book. And he wrote the last one, but it's like the end part 2. Like, I think there's going to be more. You don't have to keep circling me, Black. Come on up. What is it? What are you circling me for? You want to come up? You feel better? You want to come up and say hello to the fine folks? I'd pick him up, but he's just like circling around. But the idea is, be true. It's kind of a vague thing, but the idea is hold the line, stand up for the truth is another way of taking it. Don't yield to the temptations. And that's what's not going on right now. And that's what I'm saying. People live in these worlds. They're living in a world that we create in our own minds, and it's that we create these worlds because, I guess, in effect, that we're caught up in this whole unrealistic world. And that's why people like push these ideas of simulation theory and all this kind of stuff. Because what they're doing is they just don't want to accept, they don't want to look inside, look at themselves and stand and be true to themselves, be true, right? Stand up for the truth. There are too many temptations and too many, fears of their inability. Come on, it's okay. Come on over. There you go. There he is. Come here. I want to show you to people because we talk about you. I'm going to grab you. You just ruined my coffee because your tail just touched the part I drank. Look. There. See? Let's get your face in there. There. See the eye? See how cute he looks? He doesn't look like an old cat. There you go. Your claws. I try to trim his claws. He just clawed my arm. That's the end of my coffee. His tail went over it. Who knows where that's been. Have a seat. Okay, you got the seated cat. So he exists, and he's better than he was. And now he's going to leap up to his old spot, which is good, which is a good move. Which means he's got some nourishment in him. Because he's, a week ago he couldn't do anything. But it's still touch and go. It's a serious thing what he has. And it could be chronic. I just hope it's not chronic. I hope we can beat it. So that's like I'm dealing with that. Trying to basically, nursing a cat, dealing with a roof, dealing with rats, dealing with bugs, right? Dealing with a crazy neighbor, right? Trying to fight and prevent myself from having to have a gallbladder operation removal, okay? Even though everywhere I look from the government on down, has been pushing me in a direction where I was eating the wrong foods, right? Financially broke, right? I noticed some water dripping underneath my hot water heater when I was in the basement the other day. I have to write another note because today I'm going to have to do it while the weather's warm. I have mushrooms. See, I have to get. I'm sorry about this. What was it? I have to get. This is just a note. Cover hose nozzle. I went down in the basement and I returned on the water for the hose because I had to use the hose. I was using it to try to flood out the rat hole that turned out not to necessarily be a rat hole, but something like a work in progress. So those are two things I'm dealing with. I've got to prepare my garden and clean my yard up because it's a mess. And I've got it now that I've got to create this Spartan garden and trim down these out of control grapevines that have climbed up my building, which apparently these tiny rats could climb up. I've heard that they get into your toilet vent and crawl down and actually will somehow get into the water and come up through the toilet. That's how crazy it is. I saw some scary videos. So it's like, you think you got problems, and that's only like I'm not even mentioning things. There's things that, like I say, I could probably think of 5 or 6 other things, and I'm not going to bother you with those. But you got to be true, and you got to, it's the struggle of life, and you got to move ahead, and you just have to keep doing it. It's becoming light out there. Look at the lights flashing up at the camera 2. See that? Sunrise, they always flash the last flash of the day. It's neat. Sunrise. So it's 6:57. So sunrise is around. This is sunrise, I guess. 10 to 7 or close to. I guess I didn't notice when it happened. I was too busy just looking straight ahead. But anyway, yeah, I guess that's it. I mean, I guess that's the show. He's floating around. If he's still downstairs, that'll be my opportunity to give him this thing. And then I'm going to take a walk down the grocery store and deal with that. I got to put on. I'm going to actually, what's the temperature? I have a pair of shorts on. I might walk down in shorts. No, it's 48 degrees. I'm going to have to put long pants on. But the rain has stopped for the moment, though it's going to rain today. So anyway, that's that. Be true to yourself. Stand up. Don't fall for these things. Forget the cult of personality. Just please remember that the media and politicians are marionettes. Even the ones that you think are giving you the straight dope, they're not. And that the people you're following, this cult of personality, forget it. All right? Forget it. Look, it's all hypocrisy for profit. These people are claiming to have moral standards, but their behavior doesn't conform to it. It's all pretense. And the guy that you're behind right now to save America probably has the best intentions in the world, but they're only going to double down on him if he gets any further. They're already starting to. They're already bringing back this thing that we've had for the last 2 years because I don't think enough people are paying attention to that thing over across the Atlantic. So remember, these are the best of times. These are the worst of times. And you've got to get yourself prepared. And what you really need to do, all right?
Good morning.
Just go to ROCKFLUX.com, buy my book, Then What, the print version. Get Codex, the print version. These will open your mind to things. Go to Great Solar Stuff and get a power backup, all right? Instead of donating money to some war-profiteers. It's not going to help anybody. There are more people dying here in this country every week. Do you understand? Big tech, big pharma, big ag, big medicine, big finance. All these people, they're screwing you over. It's the corporatocracy, the technocracy. Go to ROCKFLUX.com and also get like my shirts and hoodies, and you could get an apron to cook on. You get a sticker, a hat, a bag, right? These things aren't that expensive, and you can get the sayings. You don't know what you don't know. Everything you know is wrong. Game over. Then what? These will make a difference. It's a way of not being like an idiot holding a protest sign, but somebody sees you in a store that says, you don't know what you don't know, or everything you know is wrong. It makes them subconsciously think about something. Anyway, good luck. I got to go. Where does the time go? Take care.